And Luke, I have to start with you because you, along with several of your New York Times colleagues, were first to break this story about the former president's call logs from January 6th. Congratulations. Great reporting. What can you tell us about these gaps?
Right. So the January 6th committee has been extremely interested in what President Trump was doing on January 6th, what steps he took to try to call off the mob, or what steps he didn't take. And one thing they were as they were trying to uncover these steps he may or may not have taken, they got call logs from the National Archives. And as investigators were paging through these, they kept finding hours and hours with no calls from Donald Trump. And they knew from public statements, from interviews different people have done, that Donald Trump was, in fact, making calls during these times. And so this throws a huge roadblock in the committee's way as they try to paint this picture of exactly what Donald Trump did or did not do on January 6th. And I think it also relates to some of the other reporting we've seen this week about the chaotic nature of the Trump White House, in which things were not done by the book. People were not using official channels to communicate. People were grabbing each other's cell phones, calling people from other people's cell phones and the like. And so it's going to be very difficult for this committee to pin down exactly who was calling whom at what times in an official record based on what information they have so far.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. That is going to be the challenge for sure. Leanne, let me go to you because, of course, you and our Capitol Hill team have matched this reporting, and I know you've been working your sources on all of this. So what can you tell us, Leanne, about who the president was calling on that day, and what do we know about the timeline? Luke makes the point, look, it's really hard to piece this stuff back together, but we do know some of what happened.
Yeah, we do know a little bit, Kristen, and they do want to piece this all back together because they think it's critically important. We know in the morning of January 6th that he tried to get a hold of Vice President Mike Pence multiple times. They eventually connected. We also know that he did reach out and call Representative Jim Jordan. But once the afternoon, after that rally at the Ellipse, that's where things become murky. That's where the big gaps take place. After he spoke and, rallied his supporters, that's where there are no call logs, even though there are calls that have been publicly reported. We do know that the former president spoke with Leader McCarthy. We also know that he called Senator Mike Lee's cell phone mistakenly trying to reach Senator Tuberville of Alabama. And those call logs were not in the documents that the January 6th Select Committee received from the National Archives. Perhaps he used his cell phone and they weren't documented. Perhaps those call logs have been destroyed, and perhaps they just haven't received those documents yet. The archives, or excuse me, the January 6th Select Committee anticipates getting more documents from the archives, so maybe they just haven't come in yet. Regardless, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, Kristen.
There sure are, Leanne. And Garrett, with that, let me go to you. Politically speaking, for Republicans, the last thing they want is yet another headline that they have to answer for that relates to former President Trump. Can you take us inside the reaction? What are folks saying on Capitol Hill about this latest reporting?
Well, look, I think the idea that the Trump White House was sloppy at best with its call logs, with its records, and with how information went in and out of the White House isn't a surprise to anyone. The question that I think really matters here is what's the committee going to do with this next? There's other ways they can get at this information if they want it. We know they've been trying to get a hold of phone logs from other potential witnesses, other cell phone records, the folks in and around the White House, and whether they try to go after more directly the people who Donald Trump was talking to, whether that's a subpoena for Kevin McCarthy, whether that's inviting any of these folks who we know that the president talked to on that day in to testify. Call logs were never going to show the contents of these phone conversations. And at the end of the day, it's not what the president was doing with his cell phone. It's what he was saying or not saying about the attack that was going on at the Capitol at the time that's going to be critical to the January 6th committee and their investigation.